Some groceries, fed the kids, and raised a family. Rain quit and the wind got high and a black old dust storm filled the sky, and I swapped my farm for a Ford machine and I poured it full of this gas Eileen and I started rocking and rolling over the mountains out towards the old Peach Bowl.
Some of those Dust Bowl ballads come out of really his late teens and early 20s, you know. And then he joined about 500,000 other migrants heading westwards towards California, where they'd heard there was lots of work out there, and of course they were wrong. And it's there in California when Woody gets, he sort of hooks up with the right people, I suppose, and gets involved in the Popular Front out there in California. And this is the beginning of it, really, of his politicization. As you say, began writing columns for the People's World out there, and in Los Angeles, and got a show on a progressive radio station, KFVD, out in Los Angeles, and begins to circulate around the migrant camps, where the Okies, as they were pejoratively called, were living in old dwellings of tar paper and tin and old packing crates and the bodies of abandoned cars under railroad bridges by the side of rivers and what have you, and getting their heads broken when they dared to organize into unions. And Woody began to witness that and began to write about it, and so he began to see music as a political weapon then.
Will Kaufman, talk about 1937, the turning point for Woody Guthrie as he takes on racial issues in this country.
Yeah, he arrived in California, I think, with the influence of having grown up in a state dominated by the Klan and grown up in a family that supported the Klan. He wasn't all that racially enlightened when he went out to California. There's evidence in the archives that he would, write these, mock poems about African Americans are bathing on the beach in Santa Monica with the, giving off the Ethiopian smell and with jungle rhythms pounding in their veins, and he'd happily sing songs using the N-word and words like coons and stuff like that, which were part of that white mountain tradition. And so he's on his radio station sometime in 1937, and he announces that he's going to play a song from Uncle Dave Macon on the Grand Ole Opry, and Gid Tanner and the Skillet Lickers as well recorded it. A lovely song called Run Nigger Run. And he announces it, and he plays it. And he gets a letter from a member of his listening audience the next day. And I know that letter by heart. I've seen it. He says, "You were getting along pretty well in your program tonight until you announced your nigger blues. I'm a Negro, a young Negro in college, and I certainly resented your remark. No person or person of any intelligence uses that word over the radio today." And that letter really hit Woody like a slap in the face. He was mortified. He apologized profusely on the air the next day. He made a big point of dramatically tearing out the song sheet from his notebook and tearing it to shreds, and promising he would never use that word again. And as he later said, "I apologize to the Negro people for the frothings that I let slip out of the corners of my mouth." So this is the beginning of his conversion, I suppose, to eventually becoming one of the most ardent champions and activists for racial equality.
You mentioned the lynching that occurred a year before he was born that his father may well have been involved with.
Yeah.
Talk about how it
Well, there was about a year before Woody's birth, there was a policeman in Okemah named George Loney who went to the house of a fella named Nelson. Going to arrest him. I think the charge was sheep stealing or something minor like that. And I don't think Nelson was there, but certainly his wife Laura and his 12-year-old son Lawrence and a little baby, they were there. And this policeman was apparently very violent, very threatening, and young Lawrence thought that his mother was in danger, and he grabbed a rifle shot this policeman in the leg. Policeman bled to death on their front lawn. Lynch mob, well, first of all, Laura and Lawrence and the baby are brought to the jail near Okemah, and then about a week later, a lynch mob breaks into the jail, drags them to the Canadian River Railroad Bridge just outside of Okemah. Laura was lynched. Lawrence, 13 or 15-year-old boy, was lynched after being sexually humiliated in public, and the baby is left crying by the side of the road. And the citizens of Okemah were so pleased with their handiwork that soon they were selling postcards to commemorate it. And Woody saw that postcard, and he actually wrote a song about that. If you want to hear it, I can do it. He never recorded it. It's called "Don't Kill My Baby and My Son." As I walk down that old dark town, in the town where I was born, I heard a saddest, lonesome moan that I'd never heard before. My hair, it trembled at the roots, cold chills run down my spine. As I drew near that jailhouse, I heard this deathly cry. Don't kill my baby and my son. Don't kill my baby and my son. You can stretch my neck from that old river bridge, but don't kill my baby and my son.
Will Kaufman, author of Woody Guthrie, American Radical.
Boy, it was a charge called homicide.
Woody Guthrie performing on the radio in 1940. That same year, he formed the Almanac Singers with Pete Seeger and others. I asked Will Kaufman, author of Woody Guthrie, American Radical, to talk about the significance of the group.
The Almanac Singers were really spearheaded by Pete Seeger and Millard Lample and Lee Hayes, and it had various personnel in this band. They were really wanted to form, I guess, what would have been the first self-consciously proletarian, progressive music group in America, group of singers. The idea was using song as a means of championing the union movement and the anti-intervention movement until, of course, the war starts, and then they do their flip-flop and go from being anti-interventionists into war champions. They didn't last very long. They're dissolved. They're broken up by about 1942, but they wrote quite a few songs which were sort of the prototype for many of the political folk groups that followed, including the Weavers, which in a sense grows out of the Almanac Singers, and some of the same people who were in that group become the Weavers as well.
Paul Robeson. When did Woody Guthrie meet Paul Robeson, the famous singer, actor, dogged by the U.S. government, by the FBI? They took back his passport.
Yeah. He would have, I guess it would have been around in the late 40s when he actually met Robeson, because both of them were on the board of People's Songs, which was an organization started by Pete Seeger as a means, again, of energizing the union movement through song. And he admired Paul Robeson very much. I don't believe he ever sang with them. I saw one letter in which he mentions having met him. But he certainly supported him, and he was there, of course, during these the Peekskill riots of 1949.
We'll talk about the Peekskill riots, exactly what happened.
Okay. 1949, late August, early September of 1949, the Civil Rights Congress through people's songs, got Paul Robeson to agree to sing a benefit concert at the golfing grounds up in, or the Lakeland picnic area up in Peekskill, Westchester County. And before Robeson even got to the grounds, he never even made it to the grounds, because for the whole previous week, the Peekskill Evening Star and other local newspapers and the Ku Klux Klan and other right-wing organizations were firing up the populace to prevent Robeson and to prevent his followers from coming to Peekskill. Robeson, there was all this Robeson, Jew-loving commie kind of stuff like that, because Robeson had declared, his crime was declaring in the midst of the Cold War that no African American would voluntarily go to war with the Soviet Union. He'd been to the Soviet Union. He said he was treated with more respect there than he was ever treated in the United States. And for that heresy, he was met with a burning cross on the hills above Peekskill, which, kind of proved his point. And so he never made it to the grounds there, but the concert goers did. They were on the grounds there, and they were met by massed gangs of men and women and teenagers hurling rocks and abuse and beating them up with fence posts and baseball bats and destroying the grounds and what have you. And so Robeson is not able to sing at Peekskill that week. But he makes a declaration. He says, I don't get scared when fascism comes near, like it has at Peekskill. And he says, I'm going to come back in a week, and I'm going to sing this concert. And in the intervening week, they amass between 20 and 30,000 supporters to protect Robeson and to protect the concert goers, and they make it into the grounds. He sings the concert. He's buzzed by police helicopters, FBI helicopters, who try to destroy the sound, but he sings the concert. And then there's no violence on the grounds, but the concert goers, as they're leaving, they're directed deliberately into an ambush road by the Westchester County Police. And all along the road, there are gangs of teenagers and mostly young people with rocks and boulders piled high at periodic staging posts along the road, all the way towards the Bronx, on bridges overhead. And they are destroying the cars. They're throwing boulders through the windows. Glass is shattering. Hundreds of people are getting injured. Pete Seeger was there. He recalled what it was like to have his car surrounded by mobs rock back and forth. He's got, even now, embedded into his chimney breast in his home up in Beacon, New York, a huge boulder which had crashed through the windscreen and almost killed his young son, Danny. And this is collusion between the Westchester County Police and the Ku Klux Klan and the gangs and the newspapers and what have you. And Woody Guthrie was there. I was really been surprised that none of the major biographies about Woody have made a point of actually placing him physically at Peekskill, because he was so astounded by what he saw. He was on a bus with Lee Hayes, and he said, I've seen some bad stuff, but this is about the worst I have ever seen. And Lee Hayes remembered that Woody was leading these frightened people in the bus. He was leading them in singing songs like takes a worried man to sing a worried song. I'm worried now, but I won't be worried long. And he's got really good attitude to him. He's making, quite brave jokes like, anybody got a rock? There's a window what needs to be opened back here, things like that. And at one point, Hayes remembered that Woody pinned up a shirt against the window to stop the glass from breaking inwards. And he said, wouldn't you know it? Woody pinned up a red shirt, And Woody was so astounded by what he saw in the space of a month. He wrote like 25 songs about Peekskill that he never recorded. He put them into a makeshift little collection of songs called Peekskill Songs. He never recorded any of them, but Billy Bragg, the English radical folk singer, about 20 years ago, Nora Guthrie, Woody's daughter, who presided over the archives, began inviting contemporary musicians in to put some of her dad's lyrics to music. And one of these that Billy Bragg put to music didn't end up on the double album that came out of there, Mermaid Avenue, it was called, that he did with Wilco. But they did record it. It didn't end up in the final track, but it's one of Woody's great odes to Paul Robeson and what happened to Peekskill. Paul Robeson, he's the man who faced down the Ku Klux Klan. Over Peekskill's golfing grounds, his words came sounding, and all around him there to jump and clap and cheer. I sent the best I had, my 30,000. The Klansman leader said old Paul would lose his head when 35,000 vets broke up his concert. But less than 4,000 came to side in with the Klan, and around Paul's lonesome oak, my 30,000. A beer-soaked brassy band went snorkeling around the grounds. 400 noble souls, Westchester's manhood. And you know they looked exactly like fleas on a tiger's back, or lost fish in the waters of my 30,000. Sung and gone, mothers and babies going home. Cops came with guns and clubs, and they clubbed and beat 'em. Well, I would hate to be a cop caught with a bloody stick, 'cause you can't bash the brains of 30,000. Each eye you tried to gouge, each skull you tried to crack, has got 1,000 friends all along this green grass. You will furnish the skull someday. I'll pass out the guns and clubs to the billion hands that love my 30,000. Each wrinkle on your face, I will know it at a glance. You cannot run or hide, nor duck, nor dodge 'em. And your carcass and your deeds will fertilize the seeds of the ones who stood to guard my 30,000.
Kaufman, American Radical, Woody Guthrie. Woody Guthrie, American Radical is his book. Howard Fast said about Peekskill, that's the sound of fascism, not in Germany, but here in America. Remember.